The Leading Force is brought to you by Wells Fargo. Together we'll go far.
Welcome back again to the show, The Leading Force. With us, we have Kiran Bedi. Kiran, let's move on to your better part of life when you took on the position of United Nations advisor. Almost 186 countries at that time.
Yes.
That you were overseeing. What was it like?
Very, very exciting. That is truly being the woman at the top of the world, because that's the only one position as a police officer you advise the Secretary General. And this was an international selection, picked up totally by merit. See, you were recognized outside India rather than being recognized within India. But at that time, the Secretary General, I think Shashi Tharoor and others played a very interesting role. And I got picked up, I was interviewed, I went through the grill, but it was truly understanding world policing, because I went to all the failed states in Africa, in Asia and Europe. Kosovo was my beat, East Timor was my beat, Somalia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Congo, Ivory Coast, Sudan, Cyprus were all my beats. I could see what made them fail. It was collapse of political leadership. Where you have dishonest political leadership, first thing which collapses is the police, because they use the police to torture people, and they have to demolish rule of law to continue. Like Charles Taylor in Liberia, when we went, had left not even $1 in the treasury.
All milked.
Finished. Right. So treasury is finished. That means it's siphoned out. Every money is siphoned out. And there is no rule of law. There is no police training. The police stations are abandoned. There are no rules and regulations. There are no courts. So I could see what collapses a country, how important policing is to keep the rule of law and to provide security. And the biggest victims of these war-torn countries are women and children.
Of course.
I saw women devastated, raped regularly, children made child soldiers in certain African countries. So for me, it was like helping countries find their feet again. And United Nations peacekeeping operations is to help find the feet again. And you know, peace has come back to Africa in big way. Liberia is a democratic country. Sierra Leone is normal. Somalia is under control. Congo is on recovery. Sudan is 2 countries. Ivory Coast is normal. But see, East Timor is a country. Kosovo is a country. This is what peacekeeping does. So I got an opportunity to put training in place, systems in place, help draft the laws, make police plans, and recruit people from over 80 countries. Help appoint police commissioners of those countries. So you had to put everything at the right time, at the right place to help and do community policing. I'm the one actually who helped bring Indian armed forces, women police officers into the mainstream, because women police no country could spare. And I knew India had women in CRPF, women in rapid action forces. I volunteered to the United Nations. Let me go and talk to the Home Minister of India. I'm sure we can bring women cops. And do you know, it worked. At that time, the Home Minister was Mr. Patil. And I said, sir, this is an opportunity for our women police officers from armed forces to make it United Nations, because other countries don't spare and they don't have these kinds of formed forces. Mr. Patil immediately agreed, and ever since then, India's women formed forces, CRPF or Rapid Action Force, they're all over the world.
Now, moving from United Nations, serving all over the world, you have joined hands with Anna Hazare. What have you seen in him that somebody who is as choosy, as selective as you are, not too many people you can hold hands with, why you chose Anna Hazare to join him?
He has a history. He has a whole life history. All his life he's only given. He's never taken anything, except that he continued to give to Maharashtra. He's a Maharashtrian. He's Maharashtra-centric. He brought the first Right to Information Act to Maharashtra. He went through many fasts to change the laws. He went through many fasts, personal sacrifice to get the corrupt ministers removed, corrupt bureaucrats removed. He's more Maharashtra-centric. When we decided to do an India Against Corruption movement, and we brought him to the center stage, and I think the whole country revered around him. In his simplicity, became nationally known. He was known, but he was not nationally known as much as we would have. He ought to have been known. But he on his own volunteers to stay back in Maharashtra because more comfortable there. But that's what happened. When he sat for 3 days when he sat for hunger, fast unto death, almost fast unto death, for an ombudsman in India, I think the whole country rallied around him because he's touched a chord into the hearts and minds of every Indian, was a voice against corruption.
So then when you have the whole country behind you, have 1.3 billion people with you, why would you call it a truce with Government of India?
We didn't call it a truce. It's Government of India which actually committed a breach of trust. And the entire parliament, Sunil, when we were at the Ram Leela ground on the 12th day, Prime Minister's written letter saying, we will bring a strong Lokpal bill. Parliament has passed a unanimous resolution to give you a proper citizens' charter, to ensure all rank and file are part and parcel of the ombudsman, and that this law will be a national law. When a letter is signed by the Prime Minister, see, we are simple people. We are not, none of us have had that kind of experience with politicians. But a Prime Minister writing the letter and the Parliament entirely passing a resolutions like this, that we urge the Anna Hazare to give up the fast, and we pass a resolution, it's all on tape, recorded, and that we assure him the following. If after that also, if Anna had said, no, I neither believe the Parliament, nor do I believe the Prime Minister's letter, I do not know how the country would have taken it. So at that time, he trusted them.
And you feel cheated today?
Absolutely. The whole country is felt cheated. To my mind, this was a case of breach of trust. Because you've gone back on a letter. I've been saying, comparing this letter of Prime Minister with a bounced check. Do you know, under the Negotiable Instruments Act, a check which is bounced is a cognizable offence?
Crime, yes.
Isn't this a bounced check? Isn't this a Prime Minister's letter, a bounced check to the entire country? But there's no offence when you break a promise like that. Since then, we never recovered. Because people lost faith in this, saying that even to this extent, if one can go and sacrifice and the people can get together, and yet you cannot get anything out, this is not trustworthy at all. No more after that. We could never come back to the same position because you trusted them. Now, there was no trust left between the two. Now it was an excess that we don't believe, and that's a fact. I don't think you can. After that, whenever we negotiated with the government or dialogued, we could, even saying likh ke de do would not matter, because giving in writing matters nothing. So I don't know where to go. That's why the struggle has gone on to continue to become a social pressure to name and shame. Now we went to name and shame.
But it doesn't matter to some people in Delhi.
Very thick-skinned.
Kiran, you are a daughter first. You are a wife, and you are a mother. 3 are very, very demanding roles amongst many for a woman, especially in India. When you look back, do you feel satisfied?
Daughter's role has been just perfect. Mother's role has not been that perfect. Wife's role has been balanced, not the best. But you can't have all 3 perfect.
Sure.
That's it. Why? Work was all-consuming because it emergency. I could not say, "Main chali hu ghar." I'm sitting at home. Only when my daughter needed me medically ever. But the fact is that we were always together in the evening. So it was a beautiful home, but was not like the normal mother like I had, where when I come from school, mummy's there. When my daughter came back from school, I was not there. But I saw her off every morning to the school bus. So it was a different style of mothering her, but certainly not the style my mother gave to me.
Different styles
It was a
doesn't
different
make much
style.
difference.
But do you know what? The ideal is the one I had. Therefore, I don't call it the ideal style. Ideal is that, but practical was this. Our husband-wife relationship was far ahead of time. Like my parents were ahead of time, so was he ahead of time. When we both got married, he knew I was going to be into a policing service.
Yeah, Bridge says that actually.
Yeah. It was a demanding. He was like, he was of the attitude of my father. here is somebody we've created who should never be held back. So I think he chose his own balance of position.
But at some point he mentions somewhere, and I heard about it, that Kiran is a romantic person.
Huh.
Kiran likes poetry.
Yes.
Tell us about a little bit on the soft
I
side
wrote
of
so
yours.
much of poetry for him.
You did?
Yeah, till I put it in verse, I couldn't read more. So we had a courtship of about 2 years, and I did a lot of interesting poetry. It was romantic. So and it flowed out of me completely. By the way, he preserved it. He preserved it and then gifted it to me, saying, "Do you remember you wrote these?" But I remember I wrote them and then moved on. But I do know poetry flows when there is a very strong emotion in you. And till I wrote, I couldn't study and concentrate, and it just flowed more with nature. So it did.
Very interesting to hear this softer side of yours. I'm sure that is the person inside you. Now, when you look around, there are lots of girls today, even though the world has moved 40 years henceforth from when you got into this. Would you still advise girls to emulate your career graph, or is it a man's world?
The world must get both. The world, it is a man's world as long as we women don't make it. Once we make it a human world. It's not fair to be left, any profession now to be left as a man's world. I think it should become a human world which has capable men and capable women. And those of us, I'm not saying you must come, those of us who got the orientation for policing or for hard jobs like these should make it.
So it's still a wonderful 20, 30 years ahead of you as a minimum, and we wish you longer life. We're really looking forward to at least 2 more decades of the Iron Lady that we have known you as. Thank you once again.
I don't want to live that long. 2 decades means too long a life.
We need you longer, because India needs probably 2 decades to get corrected. We really thank you for taking out time to be with us on this show, The Leading Force, and you are certainly one for all of us.
Thanks, Ulu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was Kiran Bedi, the first Indian IPS women officer, the Magsaysay Award winner, United Nations advisor, and today almost single-handedly with the man Anna Hazare, crusading against the most difficult challenge of India in this century, corruption. Be with her every day, every moment. It will make it a better country, the better world, as she said. Thank you. This is Sunil Hali, signing off on The Leading Force.
The Leading Force is brought to you by Wells Fargo. Together we'll go far.